Hello, welcome back to my channel. Well, in the previous video, I was talking about how to apply for a loan through Vidya Lakshmi portal. We will be talking about the repayment process. To start with the repayment process, you have to understand the repayment holiday or the moratorium period. It is the period of your studies, that is the course duration, and in addition to that, is 6 months or 1 year, that is your job search period. So if you're doing MBA of 2 years, then your total course duration will be 2 years, and total moratorium period will be coming around 2.5 years to 3 years. This means that your EMI won't start until this repayment period is over. Total repayment tenure is maximum of 15 years in most of the banks, in public sector banks and also in private banks. But I must suggest, if you want to avail education loan, you must go for public sector banks. I will tell you the reason. Since I am a banker at PSU Bank, I know in the public sector banks, the repayment period is generally not included in the repayment term. For example, if they are providing maximum repayment term of 15 years, then it excludes the 2.5 years or 3 years of moratorium period. So your total tenure you're getting 17.5 to 18 years. Okay, but in case of most of the private banks, not all private banks, the total tenure includes the moratorium period. So 15 years is the tenure if you're getting. I must suggest that you should go for 15 years term only. The reason why, while processing education loan, I have seen that some of the students are quite confident, and that's a good thing also, that they will be getting a very good job for the course they are taking, for whatever plans they are having for the future. They are very confident about it, and because of that, they choose lesser repayment term. For example, they are choosing 7 years or 10 years. Okay, and because of choosing less tenure, their EMI increases. So I have seen later those students only, while facing problem, I hope it doesn't happen. Just in any case, for any unforeseen circumstance, if it happens and they fail to pay, it becomes difficult to change the sanction term and change the repayment term, or maybe to increase the repayment term if they need to at that time. So I must tell you that you should always choose the longer repayment term, just in case if you feel good and confident enough that you can pay more amount, you can do it anytime during your repayment term. For example, if your EMI is coming as 10,000, and after getting job, because of your earning capability, you have the ability to pay 10,000 more, then you can always put a standing instruction from your salary account, so that it can be deducted, auto debit or auto deduct from your salary account, and get credited into the loan account. So in that way also you can put in the larger amount of your EMI and close the loan early. There are many ways to reduce the amount, but in case if anything happens and you fail to pay the EMI for your choosing lesser tenure, then it will be difficult later on to increase the tenure and lessen the EMI. Okay.
Can students pay the equated monthly installments from the start of moratorium period?
You can always choose that, but only the interest portion will be paid, not the total EMI, since the EMI starts only after the moratorium period.
How can students pay the equated monthly installments?
There are numerous ways of payment. For example, by through clearing checks, or by paying through cash, or provide the banker checks for debiting your account. But I must tell you, since it's a monthly affair, you can always put a standing instruction from your salary account to your loan account.
How can students get collateral-free education loans?
Generally, all the banks, whether it's a private bank or a government bank, all of them provide collateral-free loans up to 7.5 lakh. From 4 lakhs to 7.5 lakhs, guarantee is generally required. Up to 7.5 lakhs, it's totally collateral-free. Above 7.5 lakhs, banks require collateral, which can be in the form of any property, any fixed deposit or LIC deposits, and generally they ask for 100% collateral. Even if some NBFCs or private banks might not ask for collateral up to 7.5%, but they generally charge a rate of interest which is much higher than the public sector banks. Yeah, so I must tell, if anybody wants to avail education loan, they must go for public sector banks, only because their rate of interest is much lesser than the NBFCs and private banks. Well, banks have a product code for the education loan of the students who are applying in premier institutes. For example, like IIMs, ISBs, Symbasis Institute of Pune, etc. But they have categorized the list of the institutes in three categories. Generally, government banks offer 30 to 40 lakhs for the students who are enrolling themselves in this A category institutes, and B and C category institutes, they provide loan up to 20 lakhs generally. Interest depends on the category of institutes for which they are providing the loan. Generally, it is around 7.3, that is the RLLR, repo linked renting rate. So we cannot tell the exact rate of interest just because it depends on RLLR, and it keeps on changing according to RBI guidelines.
What the fees and costs we can add while applying for education loan?
Yes, of course, you can also add your hostel fees, library fees, books, or any kind of field research work if it is done. You can also include all these fees along with the tuition fees.
What is margin? Does education loans have margin too?
Margin is the percentage that you have to pay out of your pocket. Generally, in government banks, up to 4 lakhs, people don't ask for margin. It is 0%. But more than 4 lakhs and up to 7.5 lakhs, it is generally 5 to 10%. In case of education loan to premier institutes, there is also no margin. In government banks, they generally don't ask for margin for these institutes, but in private banks, they might ask. Well, if they are asking for 5 to 10% margin, it means that 90 to 95% of the loan amount of that you have asked for will be provided by the banks, but the remaining percentage, that is 5 to 10%, that you have to from your own pocket. Really up to 4 lakhs, government banks don't ask for guarantor, but co-applicant has to be there. I mean, co-applicant can be your parent, your sibling, your parent-in-law, your immediate relative actually. And in case of 4 lakhs to 7.5 lakhs, they generally ask for guarantors who can be either the co-applicant who have already source of income. I mean, they ask for guarantor to mitigate their risk factor. So they generally ask for those persons who can show income proof, who is having an income. So he can be your co-applicant only, who has already having proof of income, or anybody else who is also near relative. Generally, they ask for near relatives who can show proof of. While processing these education loans, I face lots of questions from the students. I know so many things go on in their mind: how to pay, whether co-applicants are required or not, what are the documents they require.
What are the documents that students are required to submit while applying for education loan?
Basic documents that they ask to provide for the applicants, for the co-applicant and the guarantor if required. In case of students who is applying for the loan, the documents that they ask to bring is all the past certificates and mark sheets, like for 10th, 12th and the graduation. If their final year's result and mark sheet has not come, they generally ask for provisional certificates or maybe the previous or last semester certificates. And secondly, the test scores like CAT, MAT, etc. Thirdly, the offer letter from the institute and acceptance letter from the student. In case the co-applicant is a salaried person, what they need is last 6 months bank statement, then last 2 years ITR, and Thirdly, 3 months pay slip. If the co-applicant is a self-employed person, then they also need this 6 months bank statement, the last 3 years ITR, and thirdly, proof of business. Proof of business in the sense that they have to provide trade license or in GST registration number, etc. They have to provide the PL and balance sheet. If the student is working or has worked for some years, then they also have to provide past working experience certificate and last year's ITR also. Though it is not mandatory, but generally it helps to process the loan faster. So I hope I have covered all the points that is generally asked by the students while taking education loan. I generally face lots of questions, lots of queries while processing education loan for the students. They have so many queries regarding this education loan. So I thought that I should make this video to help them out. I hope I have covered all the points that is generally asked by the students. And even if you feel that you need to ask something more, you can always email me in that is provided in the description box. Thank you for watching.